the recording. So before starting the session, let me introduce about myself. And my name is Mahesh, and I had an experience of Mulesoft in Mulesoft training since past 3 years of experience in Mulesoft, and I had completed 37 batches successfully. And so today we are going to see a brief demo on why we are using the Mulesoft, and so this is our course agenda. So what is Mulesoft? Why we are using Mulesoft? Where does Mule ESB comes into play? Core concept of Mule ESB and a demo. And in the demo, we are creating we are building a small application, a basic application in Anypoint Studio. So yes, I started the recording. So before going to the Mulesoft, let me go. Let me say how all it evolved, and all over the years how it started, and how all the things are working for us. So in 1960, we are using a batch process for transfer of the data. We are using the big systems and storing the data in the floppy disks. And in the 90s, where it comes in the 1970, we are having the client server, where we are storing our data in the client server and pulling the data from the client server when we are need it. And in 1980s to 2000, what is happening is three-tier architecture to entire architecture. As you can see in the three-tier architecture, there are three layers: presentation layer, application layer, and the data layer. And in the entire layer, as you can see, the layers are very loosely coupled. What they are doing is they are just reducing the dependencies between the layers. As you can see here, there are three layers in the three-tier architecture, and in the entire architecture, they are loosely coupling everything like a database, web server, application server, and all those things. And and this is an MVC framework, or the architecture, you can call it as, in the both ways. And where it comes into the service-oriented architecture. Service-oriented architecture is introduced in late 2010. So service-oriented architecture is having containing three layers: presentation layer, service layer, and the data layer. Where you can see in the three-tier architecture and the service-oriented architecture, what is happening is here presentation layer, application layer, and the data layer. And in a service-oriented architecture, the presentation layer, service layer, and the data layer. So here what differs is the application layer and the service layer. So the name itself defines that in the service-oriented architecture, we are deploying everything as a service. We are not deploying anything as an application. Okay, that's what we are doing here. So what is the main advantage of the service-oriented architecture is we are just reducing the dependencies. We are just reducing the dependencies over the layers. So data layer is not dependent on the service layer, and the service layer is not dependent on the presentation layer. So in future, if I want to change my UI technology, like if I am having the UI technology as a HTML, so I just want to change my UI technology. So I don't need to consider about the data layer and the presentation layer. I can just change my service layer, UI technology, and deploy as a service. So my data layer and the presentation layer will not be affected, and my application will look very new. So this is the main advantage of the service-oriented architecture. So when we are going to the service-oriented architecture, nothing but SOA. SOA supports the point-to-point integration, as you can see here. So we are doing what is the main purpose of point-to-point integration is just to transfer the data between one application to another application. Actually, what is an integration purpose? So an integration is nothing but the transfer of data between two applications or two APIs or two softwares or two humans, anything. The transfer of data between two is called as an integration. So what is the main purpose of integration? Actually, what is point-to-point integration? So basically, any ESB is an integration. It's an integral part of any enterprise organization. So currently, like legacy systems which we have, they follow point-to-point integration. What is point-to-point integration actually? If you have to understand that, just see the slide. If you have a web application, as you can see here, let us assume it as a web application. So this as a web application. Yes, just a moment. Yeah, let us assume this as a web application, this as a SAP application, database, and this all as an application. So if you have a web application and those web application connects to a database, so normally what we do, we build a connection between those using any technologies like maybe Java, .NET or anything which you prefer. So we make a connection between them and our users of web application. They start getting the data out of database and start working on that. During some time or after some time, you started using SAP application. As you can see in the slide, we are using the SAP. We are connected to the SAP application and other applications comes into the picture. So what people in normal start doing is like they start connecting them individually, like applications start getting connected with database and another application starts consuming SAP data or its information. So day by day, you keep going on and applications keep increasing. So as you can see here, it's kind of visible like you keep on going and creating connections and it's kind of spaghetti and mashup of various connections. So if you have small organization, this may not be a problem, but since every organization wants to grow and wants to become big, so the more applications you start creating or more interfaces, more facilities or more functionalities you start giving to the users, you can see here there are many a lot of concerns we have to face here. So the concern is every time if I change my database of my application or database of SAP application or database of any application, so then I have to consider what will be the impact of all these changes on other application or other application on the consumer application. So this becomes very rigid, right? So this is the main drawback of it to maintain the point-to-point integration. And what we do when we do this, we are totally bounded by each and every application. We have to consider even before changing a small thing that what will be the impact. It's very slow. There is a lot of delay in development. You have to coordinate with many people. So to overcome all these things, we had a concept called ESB. So what I'm trying to explain in this whole slide is, see, let us consider this as an application. So let us transfer the data between the web application and the database application. So we are doing, we are just directly connecting to the web application to the database application. As you can see this line here in the slide, so we are directly connecting to these two applications. So by using any other technology like Java, .NET or anything. So after some time, what is happening? Other applications comes into the picture, and we are directly connecting to all the other applications to transfer the data between one application to the other application. So what it is happening? We are having a lot of concerns here. The concern is if you want to change anything in my application, if I want to change anything in my application, so I have to consider what will be the impact. I have to coordinate with many people. It a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to for the development purpose. So to avoid all these things, there is a concept called ESB, and I can show you a real-time example for the point-to-point integration. So let me go to ndtv.com. Okay. So in the ndtv.com, I'm just going to the business category. There are many categories available here, but I'm just going to the business category. And in the business category, you can see here, see there are live census feeds coming into this NDTV profile, NDTV server, but this data is not contained in the NDTV server, or this data is available in the Bombay Stock Marketing. So we are getting this data from the Bombay Stock Marketing. What we are doing, we are just doing the point-to-point. Just let us assume that we are just doing the point-to-point integration between the NDTV profit and the Bombay Stocks and server profit. So what we are doing, we are just transferring the data between one application to the other application, and we have to think that, let us say that my NDTV profit server is old system, and it is compatible for soap services, and my Bombay stock server is a new system and it is a restful service. So what we have to do here? In the soap services, we are using the XML language. In the RESTful services, we are using the JSON language. So there is a lot of transformation logic required here to change XML to the JSON, and there are a lot of things we are considering while transferring the data. So this is a donkey work. What we are doing here is we are just doing a donkey work. Instead of transferring the data between one application to another application, what we are doing, we are just considering what is the application. We have to coordinate with many people, all those things. So that what we had done, we had introduced a concept called ESB. So yeah, what is ESB? ESB is nothing but enterprise service bus. So what we do in ESB is we make a middle layer between all these applications, and these layers work as coordinating and doing different operations which normally you have to take in your application. So all these things will be done using ESB. So here you can see we are not connecting to any applications directly. We keep getting the applications and we keep attaching them. We keep getting the applications and we keep attaching them to our ESB. So this is same thing which we saw in the last slide, because what we saw in the last slide is we are just connecting directly to the any all the applications. So we need lot of transformation logic. So we need to consider what will be the impact of changing one application, my application on the other applications, and a lot of time in delay in the development purpose. So I have to coordinate with many people to avoid all these things. I have to there is a concept called ESB. And what is the work of ESB is, as you can see here, there are all the applications, iOS applications, database, web applications, SaaS applications, SAP applications. So let me take a real-time scenario. Here, what ESB doing is, ESB is acting as a middle layer here. So here, any application is not connecting directly. So what all the applications are doing, all the applications are connecting to the ESB, and ESB is sending the request to the targeted application and getting the response from the targeted application, and sending the data to the requested application. So let us take a real-time scenario. Let us assume that there is a SaaS application and the SAP application. So what we are doing, so I need to I have to request for the data as a response from the SaaS application. SaaS application is sending the request to the ESB, and ESB is sending to the request to the SAP application, and SAP application is sending the response to the ESB, and ESB is sending the response to the SaaS application. So it's not, it's how it is doing, how ESB is doing all the things. It's not considered of our SaaS applications or the SaaS applications, SAP applications. So this is how ESB is doing all the work. So we here with the benefit is the turnaround time or the development time of any application is very less. So this is the major advantage of ESB, and here we are just doing the transfer of data, but not doing any donkey work. So in ESB, why we are going to the Mulesoft? Okay, first let me go to the right, and what is the main theme of Mulesoft? Mulesoft, okay, I'll just go to the Google. Okay. Mulesoft donkey logo. So Mulesoft has done this donkey logo for them to because why Mulesoft is using the donkey logo is to just reduce the donkey work what we are doing in the point-to-point integration, as you had seen before. So we don't need to change the transformation logic. We don't need to do the donkey work. So we are just transferring the data between one application to the another application just as an ESB. So here in the ESB, why we are going to the Mulesoft is, so here there are many other platforms which are established before the Mule ESB, Mulesoft, but why we are using the Mulesoft? The main reason is Mulesoft itself provides API platform, and Mulesoft itself is having is having lot of connectors compared to the other platforms like Delbumi, TIPCO, Oracle, so all the other platforms. So Mulesoft is having the Salesforce connectivity, and Mulesoft is having the hybrid cloud computing where we can deploy our applications. So here we are having many other platforms which are established before the Mulesoft, and there are some platforms here: IIB, Camelcase, Delbumi, TIPCO, Oracle Sova, and WSO2. And let me consider IIB. Okay, IIB is not having the API platform. So if you are doing building an application in the IIB, so what we have to do is we have to go give a contract to the third parties to build an API platform, or we have to purchase the API platform. So it costs very expensive for us. So what we are doing in the Mulesoft is Mulesoft itself is providing the API platform for us. So where the Mulesoft is charging for us, actually the Mulesoft is charging for us when we are going to deploy it into the cloud. So if you want to develop our application, I can develop my application in the Mulesoft, and if I'm having my own server license like a Tomcat server, IBM server, or any server, so what I can do, I can just directly deploy it into my server. So it costs 0 rupees for me. So this is why lot of organizations preferring Mulesoft nowadays, and the lot of connectors compared to the other platforms, as I had said. So, and Mulesoft is having the Salesforce connectivity and hybrid cloud computing. And let me go to the API platform. Just show you how it is. Anypoint platform. So this is an API platform which we are going to, and this is the main reason why we are using the Mulesoft, and why Mulesoft is rapidly growing nowadays. So Anypoint platform is having many tools like Mule ESB, API Designer, API Manager, Anypoint Studio, API Portal, API Analytics, Cloud Hub, and Mule Enterprise Management. So I'm just logging into my personal account to show you. So yes. In the Mulesoft, so this is an updated version in the Mulesoft. This version is updated just 2 days before. So here we are having the design center, Disco Exchange part, and we are having the manage center. In the manage center, we are having API manager, access management, runtime management, runtime manager, and a data view. So first, what we have to do is I'm just going to the exchange part here. So what is there in the exchange? Exchange is used for downloading the adapters where we can import. So I'll give an real-time scenario for you. If I want my application to connect to the Facebook application and transfer the data between the Facebook application, okay, I'm just searching for the Facebook application here, Facebook connector here. So here I'm having the Facebook connector. As you can see, I'm having Clarity on Drupal, Twitter. So this many connectors, I can download the adapter, I can import it to the Anypoint Studio, and I can drag and drop. So Mulesoft is totally a graphical interface where we are doing our work. So no, so if I want any other application, I can type it and I can drag it and drop it. I can just download it to the Anypoint Studio, and Anypoint Studio looks like this. Okay, and I can import my connector to here. I can just drag and drop my connectors, and I can integrate my application with another application. Okay, so these are the connectors. So Mulesoft is having more than 600 connectors. Now at the starting it is having only 400 connectors, but now it becomes 600 connectors. 600 organizations is having the Mulesoft connectors in the IT field. So I'm just going to the Anypoint Studio, and this is how we will. So as you can see, there are connectors which I had built also. So I think, yeah. I can show you here. You can see my name, right? Mahesh. Mahesh, these are the connectors. So Blue Ranger Lite API connector, and so there are some connectors which I had built. API connector. Okay, this is how we are going to build our connectors also. I will be showing how to create the connectors in our sessions itself. So after that, let me go to the design center where we are doing our designing part. So we are in this we are using the RESTful services, as I said before. In the RESTful services, we are using the RAML language. Actually, what is the RESTful services? RESTful services is nothing but representational state transfer, which is an architectural style for networked hypermedia applications. It is primarily used for to build web services that are lightweight, maintainable, and scalable. So a web service which is based on REST is called RESTful web service. And in the RESTful web service, we are using the RAML. RAML is nothing but RESTful API modeling language. So here we are going to design our API in the RAML. So this is also a graphical interface. We don't need to code anything. We just need to write the JSON code. The JSON code is very simple. We are just dragging and dropping. This is totally a graphical interface. So as you can see here, it differs from spaces. If I am clicking this here, so it will directly drag and drop to my space part. So here you can see here it is differing again. So this many options I am having. So this all the web methods and JSON codes. See, I'm getting the flights, get method, post method, and all those things I am going to design in the RAML. And after that, I'm just going to import this into the Anypoint Studio to modify this all things. So we are doing all these things in the session itself. But I'm just saying this to get you an idea, to give you an idea about the Anypoint platform, how we are doing all these things. So after that, we have to go to the API manager. So in the API manager, what are the projects we had designed in the design center? We have to exchange that into the API manager. So I'm just clicking on the Blue Ranger flights, why it is version 1, and here we have to create some portals. So here there is an option by just clicking on all the things we are creating some new portals. So if I click this, we can create the new portals, and I have to configure the endpoints, and then I have to deploy it into the cloud. And after that, so just let me go the API manager again. Okay, back. So the policies will appear for the only the projects which we had deployed into the cloud. So in the policies, whichever the policies I want to add, I can add. So I'm apply new policies. So if I want the security policies, here this many options I am having for the security policies. So just by click I am configuring everything, the security options. So IP blacklist, IP whitelist, and OAuth 2.0 services, XML threat protection. These all the services are available in the policies. If you want any policies to be done, so you can create the connector. You can create the policy also, and here add SLA tier. And what we are doing here, we are just typing the how many requests you want in a minute. Okay, here there are units, right? Here you can type the minutes or hours, how many hours or how many minutes, in how many minutes, in 1 minute, how many requests you want to get. Okay, so if I'm typing 3 requests here, so if I'm typing 1, so in 1 minute I just want 3 requests. After 3 requests, my application will show an error. So that's how I'm just putting my configurations or in the SLA tab. So this is how we are going to do it in the API manager. And after API manager, when we have done everything, it will move to the runtime manager, where we can manage our application, how many logs we are getting, how many loads we are load balance, and inside properties and all those things we are going to manage in the runtime manager. As you can see, this many applications had started. So what we can do, if I'm just clicking on one of my applications, so here you can see insight, logs, queues, schedules, and when I'm going analytics, so how many members are using my application. That also, because I had kept it in a public or not in private mode, anybody can access my application. So in the insight, in the settings, I can go to the properties, insights, logging, static IPs. So all those things I can configure here. So this is the main use of the Anypoint platform. So is it clear for everyone? So if it is clear, I'll move to the Anypoint. I'll move to our slide and continue demo session. So and I just said to forgot, and these all other platforms, they are acting Mule ESB as a part of their platforms, but Mulesoft itself is an ESB. Okay, that's what these features, all these features are applicable for the Mulesoft also. So actually, yeah, what is enterprise service bus? We had discussed this. ESB is a software architecture for middleware. It is acting as a middleware software. So it should support SOA. SOA is nothing but service oriented architecture. So SOA basically we define design or applications to be robust, agile, and we divide them into small microservices or functionalities, components based, and any enterprise service bus should hide the complexity. What we mean by hide complexity? Complexity of integrating different applications. Okay, so if I have a Java application, I want to connect to a .NET application. So I should not be considered concerned that how should I communicate with the .NET application. I will connect to ESB. I will send my message to ESB, and then it's ESB's work to take it to the .NET application, and how it interacts with that. It's not concern of Java application and .NET application. This is what we mean by hide complexity. So what is simplify access? Simplify access is so if you have a ESB layer or middle layer, new application or other application, it should support the canonical patterns. And what canonical patterns are? It's like a general design patterns for the data, and so you follow this everywhere. You can use it very easily. So then the most important part is our integration driven by business requirement, not by the available technology. So once we have a ESB layer, as I said, it can be any kind of technology. It can be Ruby, Rails, Agile, .NET, mobile iOS, Java. So it's not driven by the technology, it's driven by the business requirement. So why we are moving to the MuleSoft, there are many other platforms which are established before the MuleSoft also, because the MuleSoft is having many projects in their hand. So many opportunities, many employment of us. So that's why we are just moving to the MuleSoft right now. So integration is driven by the business requirements, not by the available technology. Okay. And I'll just explain all these features in one line, because as this is a demo session, I'll not be able to explain or cover all these things, and I'll be explaining all these things in a single sentence. And in the sessions itself, we are going to learn deeply about all these things, all these features of ESB. So what are the features of ESB? First and foremost is routing. So it should be able to route different messages to different locations. Then we are going to the message transformation. This is a connector in Studio that if one application sends a message in XML, then another application, if it wants in JSON format, so Mule ESB should be able to do that kind of transformation. So uh, I had shown this Anypoint Studio right here. So yes, so message transformation, right? So it is a connector. So transfer message, it is a connector in the Anypoint Studio. Why we are using this connector is to transfer the data to JSON format to XML format, and XML format to JSON format, or to put so that is the purpose why we are using the message transformation. And after that, we are using the message enhancement. If you want to get some enhancement on message, if you send value A and our different system expects A plus alpha, so you should be able to do the enhancement on the message. So what is protocol transformation? So the message enhancement is happening internally in the process. So the MuleSoft is totally developed on the Java platform. So everything will be designed on the flow as an flows. It will be scripted internally as in Java. So we are going to the protocol transformation. This is also important because not all applications will connect on the same protocol. It can be FTP, it can be HTTP, it can be SFTP, different kinds of protocols like DCP, whatever you have those kinds of protocols, it should be able to transform those protocols also. So this process is also happening internally. So where we are going to the service mapping. Service mapping is nothing but if we had various kinds of services, ESB should be able to map those services also. So when we are going to the message processing, again it's a similar kind like message transformation and the message enhancement. It should be like it should be able to connect different message processors together and work on the messages. It should be able to choreograph our process. If we have different processing or different applications running on different places, it should be able to choreograph. Suppose if I have a message and my business process says I have to do one operation at first and other operation at second and third operation at third, so my ESB should be able to support all these kinds of things. So When we are going to the service orchestration I can explain you in a real-time scenario by taking. So if you are having a real retail site, okay, if I'm going to the Amazon and I'm confirming a order. So before confirming a order, it will go to the inventory and check whether the product is available in the inventory or not. If the product is available, then it will show your order is confirmed. So if my order, if the product is not available in the stock, in the inventory, so what it will show is the product is out of stock. So this is the message it will display when the product is out of stock. So this whole process is happening internally by the service orchestration. We call it as a service orchestration. And where we comes to the transaction management, this is also very important because not all systems are stateless. If you want a stateful transaction and we want to have reliability in our transaction, then it should also support that. So when we are going to the security, this is also very important nowadays because there are so many hackers threats in any application. There are a lot of hackers outside watching the message go, which go and like a message spoofing, all those things. You should be able to secure your whole message, like the entity of the message. So if I am doing a HTTP connection, it should support a HTTPS connection. The HTTP is nothing but the general connection, hypertext transfer protocol. The HTTP is nothing but security connection, hypertext transfer protocol security. And if I'm doing a FTP connection, so it should be able to support SFTP. FTP is nothing but a file transfer protocol, and SFTP is nothing but security file transfer protocol. So my ESB should be able to support all these features. So these are the features of ESB. So if you didn't understand, don't get confused. I'll be covering all these topics in our sessions very detailedly. So yeah, and so this is a mule message, and so this is the whole mule message and what is important. So Mule ESB definitely supports all those features, and now the important part in Mule ESB is Mule message. In fact, in any kind of ESB, the message is the base of anything because we are just doing it for the transfer of data, right, to one application to the another application. So the message is the only important part where which we are transferring to one application to the another application. The data, the message is nothing but the data which our API is containing. So it receives the message, it sends the message, it processes the message. So what is a message? A message object is you have a header. A header is a metadata about any message. So let's take a HTTP message. Suppose you have created a HTTP connector in inbound connector, or you have received a message. So in my header, I have inbound properties and outbound properties. Like why these inbound properties and outbound properties are used is like who had sent the message and what kind of parameters they are using. So all these kinds of data is available in the metadata, is included in the metadata. So other than metadata, what is important is payload. So in whichever the response in whichever the format we are giving, either the JSON format, either the Java format, either the XML format, whatever the response in the format we are getting, but the response will be in the payload format. So the payload is very important, and where we are going to the variables and attachments. So here you can see the other things also, right? Variables, attachments, and exception period. The variables are nothing but if we have to create any variables, we are using the variable connector. The attachment is nothing but if we have a firm-based payload, so we are just attaching our uh, firm-based payload. So where it comes to an exception payload, and exception payload is nothing but where we are having some errors and uh, errors, null payloads, and some of some of faults. So we are using some of the connectors like exception strategies, and we are just doing the exception handling in the exception payload. So after this, so we are having 7 mule building blocks, like the 7 mule building blocks like connectors, components, transformers, filters, routers, scopes, and exception strategies. Okay, so we are having the 7 mule building blocks, and after that, so I'll be explaining this also in single sentences because we are covering whole topics in our sessions. So what are the building blocks? And so first and foremost is the connectors. And what is a connector? The connector is the endpoint. It sends and it receives. It has a host address and a port details. And so if I want to give an example about the connector, you have a HTTP, SFTP, FTP. So There are different types of connectors which Mule is having as a Mule building block. Then we are going to components. So the components are like general components, script-based components. You can write Groovy. You can write any kind of language in the script-based components. Or we are having the web services. The web services are nothing but where you are calling some RESTful services in our flow and sub services in our flow. We are having different connectors for it. Like we are calling HTTP services through the HTTP protocol and the sub services through the digital, and we are having web service consumer connect component for transferring the getting the data from the soap services. And then we are going to the transformers. So transformers are again the same like a message transformer. It transforms the message into one form to the other form, like XML to JSON and JSON to Java. And when we are going to the filters, the filters Mule by default itself, it is having the 12 filters included in it, less and not. And the filters are nothing but the conditions which we are applying. So I can explain it in a real-time scenario. So when you are going to register in some site, so it is asking for an password should be some capital letters, some small letters. So the password should not exceed 12 letters, and password should have minimum of 4 letters. So if you are typing minimum less than 4 letters, the password will not be accepted. And if you are exceeding the limit of 12 words, the password will not be accepted. It should be in between 4 to 12 letters. So what is the condition we are applying? Password greater than 4 and password less than 12. This is a condition we are going to add in the filters. So this is how we are going to apply the conditions in the filters. And when we are going to the routers are basically provide routing to your messages. It controls the flow. You can do splitting, you can do resequencing, you can do the aggregation. So these are the functionalities, the basic implementations of router. And the aggregation is nothing but the payload which we are getting as a response. And sorry, then we are going to the scopes. Scopes include wrappers, processing, and blocks. We have different processing scopes like transaction, security, etc. So, and where we are going to the exception strategies, as I said, we are going to handle the exceptions through like a null payload, where the errors in the payload or false in the payload. So we are handling it to the exception strategy. Some of the connectors like exception strategy, global exception, default exception, catch exception strategy, reference exception. So these are the connectors which we are using for the exception handling. There are many other connectors for exception handling which we can see in the Anypoint Studio, and this is a whole Mule flow as you can see here. So just remove the router from there. So we are just transferring the data from HTTP to the message processors directly. There are 12 message processors. If you are directly transferring the data to the HTTP to the message process first, the data will be sent to the first message processor. Then after the completion of the operation in first message processor, then it will send to the second message processor. And after the completion of operation of second message processor, then it will send to the third message processor. So to add all these things, so we are applying the router. So what the router is doing, as you can see here, router is sending all the data to all the message process at a time, and the operations are performing at a time. So this is the main advantage of the router, why we are using the router here. So Mulesoft Anypoint Platform is containing design, engage, operator, analytics, and I had shown you all these things: hybrid cloud computing, where we are going to deploy it into the hybrid cloud computing, runtime services, where we are managing our applications which APIs which we had built in the API manager. So after that, Mule runtime, analytics, and connectivity. So after the doing designing in the RAML, so where we are going is we are going to the Anypoint Studio to modify everything, and we can do the same project which we are designing in the RAML. So what I'll do, I'll just create a new project. So before that, this is an package explorer in the Anypoint Studio. This is an Anypoint Studio, and this is an package explorer in Anypoint Studio. What are the project you are creating? You can see the project details here. As you can see, reference libraries, what is there in the reference libraries, and what is there in source main app, how many configuration files you have created, and what is there in source main app, and resources, and all those things. You can check it in the package explorer. And this is called an canvas, where you are seeing an empty space here, where we have designed some flows. And this is a Mule palette, where we are having the connectors, and these are the 7 Mule building blocks, connectors. Sorry, I'll just remove this. Okay, connectors, scopes, components, transformers, filters. Yep, all these things will be available here. So what I'm doing, I'm just creating basic project to show you an example how we are creating and designing and flow. So example, how many examples I created, I don't know. Example 13. Yes, I'm just clicking on the finish here. So as I said, we are creating a basic application here. We are building a basic application here. So this Anypoint Studio is acting as an this Anypoint Studio, where we are deploying it in the Anypoint Studio. We will get our response in the it is working in the on-premises. On-premises is nothing but my local PC. My PC is acting as a server. So after developing the whole application, we can deploy it into the cloud. So this is the HTTP connector, and it is showing me some error. So it needs some configurations to do. So I'm just clicking on the HTTP connector here. So here it is showing the error here, connector configuration. If I see here in the right side, it is having a plus tab. So if I click the plus tab, so here it is configuring HTTP listener configuration, where we are sending our request and getting the response. And here is the port number. I can change my port number also. If I any port number, if you want, you can choose your port number. And after that, here we are having the path here. Path is nothing but we can give 01 as a path. Okay, I'm just giving 01 as a path, and allowed method is get. So after this, I'm just setting on payload. As I said, right, whatever the response we are getting in the JSON format, or we are getting in the XML format, we are dragging and dropping the set payload here. We are getting in the payload format here. The response is in the payload format. So welcome to Mulesoft online training. So after this, I'm just putting the logger. So how many times I'm sending the request, how many times I'm getting the response, all those things I'll be getting here. So here I am just adding the payload here to get as a response. As I said, right, in which format you are getting the response, it will be in the payload format. So here in the console part, we can see the output. So my project is deployed, right? So what I'll be doing here, I'll just go to the browser and check. So localhost. So I had given my port semicolon. I had given my port number as 8083, right? And the path as 01. I am just sending my request and getting the response which I had given in the set payload. So welcome to Mulesoft online training. So this is how I am getting the response. So this is what I'll be saying in the whole demo. So if you are having any doubts, just let me clear it for you. Any kind of doubts, okay? So that's from my side. That's it from my side, okay? Yeah. So Shona.